On today's Health, the chickenpox vaccine. The last of the major childhood illnesses may soon be a disease of the past thanks to a new vaccine that's just been approved by the FDA. It will likely be available sometime next month. Dr. Ann Gershon is professor of pediatrics at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons. Dr. Gershon, good morning.
Good morning.
This drug, I understand it, has been close to approval for years, but there's been resistance. What's changed now to clear its way for the marketplace?
Well, I think one of the big difficulties was just production of this vaccine. The virus itself is very difficult to grow in the test tube, and in order to make a vaccine that's a standard vaccine, you have to be able to develop ways to grow it well.
How serious is the need here? How big a problem are we talking about with chickenpox, and how many seriously ill people are we talking about? How many fatalities are we talking about?
Well, we estimate that there are about 7,000 individuals who get hospitalized every year with chickenpox, and there are about 100 deaths yearly from the disease. It's not as bad a disease as, say, measles was, but it still can be a severe infection and does have complications that may follow it.
Ideally, who should be getting this vaccine? Is it meant just for children, just for infants, just for adults, all of the above? What?
Well, anyone who's over a year of age and who's never had chickenpox really ought to get it. The best responses occur in children rather than adults. Adults can be immunized, but it takes 2 shots, and they don't have the same degree of protection that children do.
If you've had the disease but can't recall whether or not you have had it, can you be hurt by taking the shot?
Absolutely not. It's tolerated very, very well. There aren't increased side effects from it, and so it's absolutely harmless.
You said increased side effects. What are these side effects?
The side effects are, in general, very, very mild. About 5% of healthy children who are vaccinated will develop a couple of skin lesions that look like insect bites, and that's about it.
All right, let me come back to you in just a moment, because despite the FDA's approval, there is still some debate over whether or not the vaccine is really necessary or completely safe. In Washington, Barbara Lowe Fisher is the president of the National Vaccine Information Center. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You are one of many parents whose children have suffered crippling reactions to vaccines. What's your concern about this particular vaccine?
Well, our concern is that this chickenpox vaccine was originally developed for high-risk children, children who had leukemia, kidney disease, immune system suppression. But the question is what's good for a high-risk child good for every healthy American baby? The chickenpox is caused by a relative of the herpes virus. Do we want to be artificially injecting millions of healthy American babies with herpes virus DNA without knowing for certain whether or not the vaccine virus will reactivate later in life and take the form of herpes zoster, or it's commonly known as shingles, or cause other immune system problems?
You say we don't know, but this, as I understand it, this vaccine has been used effectively for some time in Europe, in Japan, in Korea. Do you not view those results positively?
We studied it here for, I think they followed the children up for about 10 years. They don't really know what's going to happen in year 20, 30, or 40, and that has been one of the impediments to licensing this vaccine. The other question is that when you get chickenpox, you get permanent immunity most of the time. This vaccine causes about 5 to 10 years at most, 5 to 10 years immunity. Do we really want to be driving chickenpox up into the adult population where it can be much more serious? The case fatality ratio for chickenpox in normal children is 1 death per 100,000 cases. In adults, it's 31 deaths per 100,000 cases.
Let me ask Dr. Gershon about that. What about that problem, that we are then turning this into an adult problem?
Well, we don't have any evidence, first of all, that that happens. We do know that millions of children in Japan have received this vaccine. It was licensed for general use in 1989 and have not had difficulties with it. They've recently published a study of a 20-year follow-up of immunity of children who were vaccinated in Japan, and the immunity is quite persistent. We also know that from immunizing children with underlying leukemia, if anyone would get some kind of a complication from this vaccine, you would expect that they would have it, and they've not.
Ms. Fisher,
done very well.
Ms. Fisher, is it realistic to demand that a vaccine be totally risk-free before you won't oppose its introduction in the marketplace for general use?
I think what's realistic is that parents ought to be given an option with this vaccine. This vaccine should not be mandated for use by every child. Parents ought to have the option to become fully informed about the vaccine and the disease and then make a choice. including choosing whether or not their child will have the disease and have permanent immunity versus temporary immunity.
We should add right now that nobody has foreclosed on that option just yet. What is the schedule for these vaccinations, and when do you see them being given on a widespread basis?
Well, they hope to make the vaccine available in the early spring, but it will not be a required vaccine when it's first introduced, which I agree is very important.
And you have no reservations whatsoever
No,
about
I do
it?
not have any reservations.
All right. Dr. Ann Gershon, thank you very much. Barbara Lowe Fisher in Washington, thank you. I appreciate it. We're coming up on 8:40.